Hello, I'm James, and I like to colorise old photographs. And today, I'm going to be both restoring and colouring this photograph of a proud bicycle owner from the 1890s. This picture dates back to the height of the Victorian bicycle craze, and to an era when you apparently would hire a professional photographer to show everyone your new wheels. In terms of restoration, reversing the faded appearance of this image was relatively straightforward. The wonderful thing about faded photographs is that you can almost always return them to how they would have originally looked, with only a few small tweaks. I'm always glad to see an image is only faded and not overexposed or incorrectly developed, as both of those issues are very difficult, if not impossible, to rectify with old photos. I did have a slight challenge with this particular image due to parts of the photograph being more faded than others, which required additional targeted brightness adjustments to rectify. I'm not sure if this issue was due to different levels of sunlight hitting parts of the image, or if it's instead down to some chemical process which has affected this photograph over the past 130 years. Either way, it was adjusted, and I was then free to begin the somewhat arduous task of slowly removing each of the small spots of dirt, dust, and various other things which had become stuck to the image over time. This is very much the type of task which requires a good podcast or YouTube playlist on in the background, as it can sometimes take several hours of precise work depending on the image. With the repair stages done, I was free to begin the colouring process. I did what I could to identify the exact company who made this bike, based on the metal badge on the front, for colour referencing purposes, but I was unable to confidently be sure of the original maker. I therefore used both Davy and Monarch brand women's bikes from the 1890s as colour reference instead. Thankfully, restored examples of bikes from both manufacturers still exist, so I had reasonably accurate period-appropriate colour references to work from. While I can't be entirely certain of the colours used with this individually pictured bike, I am confident that the colours I used are not inaccurate for the era. The same goes for the woman's outfit. I decided to go with a blue for her blouse and skirt, which I sampled directly from an illustration from the time. What interested me about this picture in particular was the large heavy skirt that this woman is wearing, which may suggest that this was in the earlier part of the 1890s. Bicycles are fascinating from a social history point of view, as they had a marked, lasting impact on women's rights from the late Victorian era onwards. When bikes first became popular, women attempted to ride them without sacrificing their carefully crafted Victorian innocence and grace. Entire magazines were published to advise women on how to safely ride a bicycle, while also wearing a giant skirt which could get caught in the spokes, with the advice generally being, ride very slowly. The magazines also included tips on how to avoid working up a sweat or pumping your legs too vigorously in unladylike ways. Before long, however, women started to adjust their outfits themselves to make cycling both safer and faster. Initially, these involved skirt hooks for bicycles, and some women went as far as to make specially hidden pull cords on their skirts, which would pull the fabric safely away from the moving parts of the bike. However, before long, the easiest solution was brought into play. Women simply mimicking male fashion and wearing cycling trousers, or bloomers as they were known at the time. The rising popularity of the bicycle coincided with the rise of the Rational Dress Society, formed in 1881. As a society, they argued for the wearing of practical clothing for women, clothes which would neither impede movement nor injure the wearer. The bicycle reached new heights of popularity at the perfect time to popularise this movement and their aims. A subset of the group, the Ladies Cyclists Association, was founded by Lilias Campbell Davidson, who argued that the act of cycling offered the greatest boon that has come to women for many a long day. Initially, women wearing trouser-like leg coverings in public would be shouted at, and they would even have stones thrown at them by disgusted crowds. But eventually, the sight of women wearing something other than a long, heavy skirt became normalised, and the large, immovable skirts of the Victorian era were hung up in the wardrobes of history. Without the bicycle, this societal change in attitude towards women's clothing could have taken far longer to occur. It really fascinates me the role that technology can have in providing social change for people, and I personally feel that the bicycle deserves far more credit than it receives for helping to transport women's rights into the 20th century. Thank you very much for watching. I've included some links in the description to interesting articles and videos on the subject of bicycles and women's fashion that obviously go into far more in-depth detail than I have here. If you're a new viewer to my videos, I have other colorisations up on this channel and more planned for the future if you'd like to subscribe. Please let me know in the comments what you think of this restoration, and also if there's a person or topic you'd like to see me add some colour to. Thank you again.